Everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today I am bringing you my seasonal wrap-up of some of the best books that I've been reading. So I already did best books I read this winter, I did best books I read this spring, and now I'm bringing you the best books that I read this summer. So this summer includes the months of June, July, and August, and now that it's officially September, I've got a good stack here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. And here we go. So let's bring this way back to the BookTube SFF Awards because we concluded the BookTube SFF Awards in July of this year. It must have been June when I finished reading these because I would have included my other reads from the BookTube SFF Awards in the best books that I read this spring. No surprise, that includes A Closed and Common Orbit and Record of a Spaceborne Few, written by Becky Chambers. I gave both of these books 5 out of 5 stars. When I was doing the BookTube SFF Awards live show, if you haven't already caught that, I ended up voting for Record of a Spaceborne Few for my best sci-fi pick. This is my first time ever reading anything by Becky Chambers, and I'm a fan. I'm a convert, and I'm definitely a convert of her kind of storytelling, which is just more of the like day-to-day life, but with alien races, and I was into it. A Closed and Common Orbit is probably my favorite of the trilogy, being the Wayfarers trilogy, just because it has like a very specific trope that I'm super into, and that's the artificial intelligence character grappling with humanity. I love it. It's my favorite sci-fi trope. I didn't even know I had a favorite sci-fi trope, but upon reflecting back on the sci-fi that I've engaged with in my life, this is definitely my favorite trope. So this is why I just couldn't get enough of A Closed and Common Orbit and the flashback sequences we got with Jane, the current timeline that we had with Sidra. I loved the whole thing. So this is like a 5+ star book. And then Record of a Spaceborne Few. Oh gosh, as I was reading it, it was just kind of like how a community together deals with the concept of death. I was super into that as well. A lot of different perspectives of death, of people who work on the dead, people who gather together to mourn, characters who die, and just like each different little aspect of it totally had me in my feelings. So I absolutely love this one. The next book that I want to talk about is Sorcery of Thorns, written by Margaret Rogerson. I also rated this 5 out of 5 stars, and I do have a full spoiler-free review of this already on my channel. This was a gamble for me in terms of me rushing out to buy this book and whether or not I would be a fan of it. Because my first Margaret Rogerson experience this year, I did end up DNFing that book, but I knew I loved her writing. It was the story that dovetailed, and I just didn't want to continue reading that story anymore. But as soon as I found out that she had a new book out, it was a little bit longer than the first book that I had encountered from Margaret Rogerson, I knew that I was gonna read it because I just loved her writing style that much, and that gamble totally paid off. This book has been like continuing on the trend of young adult books this year that have completely knocked my socks off. Her world building was great. It's a story about magical libraries and grimoires that speak to a young woman who is absolutely enamored with books. Like, how does that not speak to so many book lovers? I don't know. So this was a 5-star read. Go ahead and check out my review if you want to know more about it. The one thing that I will say about this book, there's like a ton of people who are like, oh, I thought that book was about Fae. It is not about Fae. If you're not a Fae lover, this book is not about Fae, and I think you'll really enjoy it. This next book that I want to talk about is Spellslinger, written by Sebastian de Castell. This one was less of a gamble for me, just because I had already finished an entire Sebastian de Castell series, so I knew that I was going to love the writing no matter what. Now, whether or not it would be a 5-star read, that remained to be the question. Was I really going to enjoy the story? I actually also have a full spoiler-free review of this book on my channel. Sebastian de Castell is one of the only fantasy authors that I know who consistently writes in first person, and that I don't mind following along with a first person perspective. There's a lot of fantasy that I read that of course jumps around between multiple POVs, but we follow the same character in their mind the whole time. So he's very good about writing, I did this, then I did this, then I did this, but not as dry cut as that. And if there's ever like a scramble or an action sequence, his writing is really, really great at bringing that to the page. For me, I really enjoy the change of pace, and I think he does it extremely well. I also am listening to this on audiobook with Joe Jameson returning as the narrator. So if you have listened to the audiobook for The Great Coat series, you'll still get that with Spellslinger. It's funny, it's got a squirrel cat, so I really enjoy Spellslinger. Gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This book is Scythe, written by Neil Shusterman. This book came out of left field for me. I was trying to grab books from my sci-fi TBR for 2019. There's several books on that TBR that I just haven't gotten to yet. This is probably the second book on that TBR that I actually finished. So it just came out of left field for me. I knew it was something that I wanted to read for the entire year, and it's totally surprised me. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars as well. I finished this book in 2 days, and I cannot tell you the last time I did that with a book. This also falls into the YA category of like YA books that have completely blown my mind this year. I think, again, we're bringing back that same theme of death and how does a community deal with death, but like in a cool, like totally sci-fi utopian society way. Yeah, loved it. I don't know when I plan on beginning Thunderhead, but I do already own that book, so I'm super excited to be able to continue on with this series because this one was a 5-star read and totally knocked it out of the park. And then there's Nevernight, written by Jay Kristoff. I've had quite the journey with this book already. I don't know if many of you remember, but I was on the verge of unhauling this book, and there were a number of you who commented on that video. This was from a couple months back. There were a number of you who commented on that video and were like, no, you need to save Nevernight. You need to read that book. So I put it in a second chance TBR, and this was definitely a second chance TBR success story. So I also picked this up for the NEWT's readathon, but I have a whole vlog experience, bringing you through my journey of this book. So I read this book in my vlog number 1 and my vlog number 2. So I started Nevernight in vlog number 1, finished it in vlog number 2, so you get to see like my whole thought process as I was reading this book, and like literally as I finished it, I was speechless. So it's been a while since I've had a book just completely like, I'm dead. I had no words after I finished this book, and sometimes when I think about it, I still don't have any words. I was really slow to pick up on it, and then as soon as we got to the Red Church, then the action picked up, then I just couldn't put this book down. So I have high hopes and faith that God's grave will also slay me, but this was like another 5+ star read. Once again, I've said this in the vlogs, I've said this every single time I brought this book up, I bowed down to every single person who made me save this book. You set me straight, you set me on the right path. Yeah, it was a 5+ star read. One of the best books that I've read this year. I'm really thirsty. I need some, what is this? An antioxidant infusion. I needed some antioxidants. I need something like this to take the shakes away. This is by one of these. That's what I'm drinking right now. So that wraps up 6 books, 6 of the best books that I've been reading this year. So these are definitely the best books that I read this summer, all 5-star reads. Not all of these videos have I included all 5-star reads. Some of them were 4-star reads, but I am telling you this summer was like completely top notch, where I just kept surprising myself with the kinds of books that I was reading. And there was like a moment in time this summer where I was like, am I giving away too many 5 stars? Like, what's happening here? But when a book just does it for you, what else are you gonna do? So let me know what are some of the best books that you have been reading this summer. And you can follow me on my Instagram, Twitter, at whatcassread, same as this channel, super easy to find. The Goodreads link is always listed down below for you. And you know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Running down to the riptide, taking away to the dark side.